Hey guys, Saint here, and I'll be doing the patch 5.12 patch note rundown. There's actually like not too many crazy changes to champions in this, but it's actually more like masteries and items. But let's get into it and take a look at them. So they changed Ashe. Now her Q only grants 1 stack per volley or enchanted crystal arrow. She's gonna make it to where you have to kind of plan around your trading a little bit more. Because like before, you'd be like playing with Ashe and then you get engaged on or something and she would volley and it would hit like half the creep wave or it'd hit a bunch of people and you just instantly have your Q fully stacked and you just like counter trade really hard with her. But now I think this is just going to make it to where you have to think about your trading a little bit more. But I still think this isn't going to change how Ashe works or anything like that. Like she'll just be more vulnerable when she doesn't have a Ranger's focus up. Braum, they made it to where his Q does 10 more damage on the majority of the ranks, and actually all the ranks, yeah, 10 more damage on all ranks, and then it costs 10 less mana. I mean, this is gonna make it to where you can trade a little bit more in lane, just because like Q is your main spell for harassing. But if you have to compare Braum to some of the popular champions that are out right now, like Alistar, like, and compare what he brings to the table and what Braum brings to the table. Like Alistar has a strong lane because he has a heal mechanic. So even if you are like losing the lane, you can just decide to play passive and then just survive off healing. So Alistar will get anybody out of the lane, whereas Braum is like a tank melee champion that doesn't have that type of mechanic. You can compare him more to something like Leona, where they almost have to all in or counter engage. And they don't really have any true trading options in lane, so the laning is like a little weird. But I always thought Braum was good if you can get him out of the lane phase. Like, you can always 2v1 with Braum in competitive, and his kit is actually really good against a lot of the like spell shot type champions. But I don't know. I don't see this being the change that like puts him over the wall or anything like that. There's just too many champions that play the tank role right now that are just better. Like Nautilus is another example of that. Like Nautilus is just like point and click, ridiculously tanky, like better on-demand CC, and like better mana cost, better cooldown, and he's just like naturally overall tankier because of the W. Like Braum needs some items before he can become tanky. Like yeah, his E is great and his W is like pretty good, but like late game Nautilus, you have W max and his decent health. That shit gives him like 800 health, so he's just stupid tanky, and he has a hook to escape with. I know like Braum has the W to escape with, but it's still like I just don't like his laning phase. It's too weak right now. Maybe you can play him with Kalista, but you can play anything with Kalista. Alright, Ekko, mana growth stat is now 50, and base attack speed is 0.625, and then attack speed growth is 3.3. I think this is actually a nerf to jungling him, so it'll make your first clear a little bit weaker because you have lower base attack speed, but eventually the attack speed will catch up to it somewhat. But also it nerfed his base attack speed, which is kind of bad, because what that means is that the way it calculates the attack speed growth is going to be based off of, like, you're going to multiply it against 0.625 rather than 0.644. So even if you do decide to get attack speed to compensate for this, then he's just naturally going to have an overall slower jungle clear. So I have to see how this affects him, but I think he'll be a weaker jungler and probably be better as a top laner with this change. And then the base damage on the resonance drive is 10 per level. So this is kind of to like, I think this is a nerf tank Ekko. This is another nerf to Ekko jungle, because people build him full tank and they just have like this incredibly high like base damage on this ability, and they're just nerfing that all around. And then Q now has 0.1 AP ratio instead of 0.2. It's the initial hit ratio, not the coming back. Not too big of a change, but I don't really think they needed to change the Q damage, so I don't know. And then mana cost on Chrono Break is now 100, and then the damage radius is only 375. So having a little bit of mana cost, and that's going to help out a lot, because there's a lot of times where I'd be jungling Ekko and I'd be finding myself out of mana, or like even top lane. Ekko actually does have like, he has decent mana cost, but if you're jungling him, you have to spam your abilities to clear the jungle. So I think that like all these changes are going to be mainly nerfs to jungle Ekko. So maybe he'll become a little bit less popular, and maybe he won't work anymore, and he'll just be stuck playing, like, I think top lane Ekko will be the way to play him after this. Elise changes, they remove the healing on the W when you activate it, which is like not that big a deal in the early game, but like late game, when you have 6 spiders up and you activate that, and you have like a little bit of AP behind it, it actually heals for a pretty considerable amount. So I don't know. It's kind of an annoying change. So she loses like her massive healing, but they said they basically moved some of the healing over to the ultimate, but it's like each of Elise's basic attacks in Spider Farm heal her for 4, 6, 8, 10, which is like not that much because it's only Elise attacking. Like I know she gets a ton of attack speed, but that's like only 10 health per auto. So like let's put that in perspective. Like let's say you have 2,000 health. Like think about how many times you have to auto to get that health back. Like 10 times for every 100 health. Like it's basically like it's nothing. Like the heal on the I think this needs to be buffed. Like yeah, it has an AP ratio, but I think they either need to increase the AP ratio or make this higher. Like yeah, you can trade tank with your spiders, but the healing is like it's so low that it doesn't even matter. So they need to tweak this number. I do like the change that they did with the E though, because now basically it's like you drop your cocoon combo on somebody, and then now if you repel in, your like Q is gonna do like 30% of their life. Like it's gonna be like a true finisher move. Because you get 100% extra damage on that, so I think that'll be pretty nice. And it'll also give you a little bit more damage if you did decide to max E. So you can like choose how you want to play Elise. I think Elise will be okay, and the new jungle item might actually help her out a little bit as well. But we'll talk about the jungle item later. I still think that she needs some tweaking a little bit, but she'll probably be in a better spot than she is now. It's just like Elise didn't really fit in with the tank meta at all, because she just gets run over by pretty much all the tanks. But if her early game clear is good enough with this Spider Farm change on heal, then I think she might be okay. Galio, they basically increased the maximum damage that could come out of the ultimate if you get hit a bunch of times. So before it was 16 with the 0.84 ratio. Now it's 720 with the 1.0 ratio. And then also, yeah, the base damage got lowered. But I don't know, Galio is just like, he's such a clunky champion because you could take Cleanse to get out of his ultimate. Merc Tread's effect is ultimate, I'm pretty sure. And then Crucible is also a really popular item, and QSS is also a really, like, it's cheap. It's super cheap. So you have like so many counters to Galio's kit. Like you can cleanse his ultimate. Like that's, I don't know. And then you basically take no damage if you do cleanse the ultimate. So I think there's like too much counterplay to Galio's kit. So I don't really see him becoming popular. Yeah, I doubt he'll become popular. Like, yeah, 720 base damage is like pretty high with the 1.0 ratio. Like, you could drop like a 13, 1400 damage ultimate late game, but I don't know. I don't really think it's going to be that good. Maybe he'll be better as a support. Ooh. Doubt it. Alright, Gragas, they made him have lower health base regen. Then the health regen growth stat has also been lowered, so his sustain in the jungle is going to be a little bit lower. I have to see how this affects him on his first clear. Like, that's what's really the most important thing, because one of the things that makes Gragas super strong is he can basically do 2 or 3 camps and then just run around forever and like be sustaining off his passive constantly. But with the health regen nerf, this could like hurt that a little bit, so I have to see how that affects his early game. And the slow duration on the cast is like 1.3 now, down from 2. And then, but the longer you let the cast sit, the longer the slow will be. So, I think Gragas will still be pretty good. Like, he'll still have like an amazing body slam, and he can still do like really good countering or disengage and setting up really good engage with the ultimate. So if you're a top level Gragas player, I think he'll still be like a great champion, but he might not be like as super broken as he is now. But I still think he'll definitely be a really great pick. Jarvan, they made it to where the flag, once you have points into it, goes down to 11 seconds, and what that means is that if you have enough CDR, you can basically EQ combo back to back. Like now you can have 2 flags down, and then you can choose to Q to either of those. Before you can do that, you could only have 1 flag down, and you could Q twice. So now you can have 2 flags down, and you can choose to Q to either of those flags. But most people don't really max E in the jungle right now, just because it doesn't give any armor. And the damage it gives is like not that high either. So I think what people are probably going to do is like put 2 or 3 points in W and then max E after that. Because you need the W to survive in the early game. Like the W is like really good if you put a lot of points into it. I think it's like too good to skip out on. But there's a lot of people who play damage Jarvan, and I think that like this E change will help out with them. Like Gamsu played damage Jarvan top lane, and this is before these buffs, so I'm sure like some people that like to play DPS Jarvan top lane will be loving this change. The Damascene Standard no longer confuses the pathing of jungle monsters. If anybody's ever seen the video on that, it's just hilarious. You should look it up. I think Jarvan will be okay, by the way. Like, there's a lot of like early game stuff you could do with him that's always been nice, and maybe he'll be good top with these changes. Jax, they made it to where he has 10, 15, and 20 more armor and Amaro in his ultimate. I don't really think this changes Jax that much. He's still going to be the same champion. If he gets going, he's going to kill everybody. If he doesn't get going, he probably won't kill everybody. Like, that's just pretty much, like, Jax is like all or nothing. It's like, alright, I hope I didn't lose lane. And then you just split push all game and just hope to win off of that. So, this will just help him do that a little bit better in the late game. So, Jax is like okay in solo queue, but he just gets countered by too much shit. Like, Alistar counters him, like, fucking Janna, Morgana. Like, pretty much all the supports, like, shit on Jax. Thresh. Like, a lot of, like, the mid lanes that are being, like, Azir shits on Jax. He just doesn't really fit in the meta that well right now. Lux. Basically, you get your W shield instantly the moment you throw it out, and then now when you throw your E, you can blow it up the moment it hits the ground by activating it mid-air. So that'll just make your E damage a little bit more, like, instant. I don't know. Lux is an okay champion, but I think her mana costs are too high for her to be considered good. If they tweak her mana cost a little bit, I think it should be a great champion. But I don't think his changes are what she needs. Then they made Malphite's W, the new W. Basically, it scales off of 0.1 armor now, so that means that basically late game when you have a decent build, it's going to add an extra 30 damage on top of what you had before. I think this will be okay. Like, he'll auto decently. I mean, you're still Malphite at the end of the day. So, I mean, he's still the same champion. He's like pretty much useless pre-6 because he can't set up any ganks. And then once he hits 6, if you can hit somebody at the ultimate, they'll just like insta die. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's like Malphite's like good in lower elo and mid elo, but a lot of people can just abuse his lane phase and like gang up on him and force fights early and like play around his ultimate too. So like Malphite's like okay. I guess he's just an okay champion. It's like really all there is to say about him. And then like he's good in like low and mid elo. But yeah, I think in high elo and competitive, people play him into some like counter picks like Aurelia. Like Malphite's always been good against Aurelia. And I've also seen people playing it against Hecarim too, like because the Q takes away his movement speed. So maybe he can play that matchup. I have to see. So he'll be played a little bit. So they changed the Ryze a lot. Basically now the passive duration, the one that gives them all like the sick nasty spell cooldown, is 2.5 seconds, and then the stack duration is 10. The spell cooldown for it is there's none, so you can basically just smash your keyboard into the ground if you're fast enough with it, and you'll be able to get off a fuck ton of spells. But now, as you put points in Q, it eventually will get the passive duration up to what it was, and then actually make it higher. So if you have max Q, the passive duration will be 7.5 seconds, which sounds like broken. You're like, wow, the passive cooldown is even like longer than it was before, or like the passive lasts longer than it was before, so you'll be able to like spam out your abilities for even longer. But you have to look at the changes that are tacked onto that. So like, yeah, the Q does more damage, 15 more damage, but you basically have to max Q now in order to get your passive effective. So you won't have like truly strong Ryze until you're level 9. And then on top of that, because you're maxing Q, like a lot of the reason why people thought Ryze was so broken before was because you would just max W and perma-root people. But you won't be able to do that till like way later in the game. And then on top of that, the root only lasts 1.4 seconds at max rank. So you'd have a lot harder time perma-rooting people. And then also the damage on it got lowered as well. So I think Ryze's lane phase will be a lot more passive than it is, and he'll still have like a pretty strong late game, but I think you have to play the lane phase like an absolute bitch now, and just like try to Q farm and poke. I don't think you can all in unless it's like maybe when you're level 5 or something and your passive actually lasts a decent amount of time. Yeah, Ryze will be okay though, I think. Yeah, he'll be alright. He'll be alright. Alright, Trundle, Subjugate, now does 35% of targets. Is that max health or hold on, let me look this up. Trundle, well, I can't remember if this is max health or current health, because that could actually change a lot of stuff. So Subjugate, Trundle drains the life force of that target enemy champion, dealing magic damage to it while also healing himself for the same amount, as well as stealing 40% of target's armor. Target's maximum health. Okay, so that's nice. So basically, I think what people would do is they'd bork them, and then, they'd probably hit them with the ultimate first and then bork them, because this shreds their armor and magic resist. so the Bork would actually do more damage overall. So, but you can do it either way. I'm pretty sure people just get a Bork and then go full tank Trundle and then just like one-shot people. Cause like Bork does what, like 30% of the target's max health, plus subjugates 35% of the target's max health. So you like open with Bork or vice versa, and you can take like 60 to 70% of the target's max health like instantly right off the bat, which is like a pretty huge. You can like blow tanks up. You just like insta kill tanks with Trundle, which has always been kind of his job. And then I think the pillar changes from last patch were actually pretty good. So I think if you can like find a way to play him in the lane phase, Trundle could be okay. But his item build is like kind of wonky, and his laning is kind of wonky too. So I think he needs like one more tweak, and then he'll be viable. This might even be the change. Like 35% health is a lot. Like he'll just butcher tanks. So I think if you can figure out his lane phase, like Trundle will be a great champion. I'm sure he has some good matchups. They just changed Trundelmir's critical strike attack frame to where it's like basically they don't want people auto attack canceling, because Trundlemir, like, he just the big thing, he winds up the sword, and the animation looks so long that you cancel your auto sometimes. They just fixed that. They did a bug fix with Zillion. Nobody even plays Zillion, so who gives a shit? Such a bad champion. So Runeglaive is the new item. Basically builds out of Sheen and the tier 2 jungle item, plus 200 gold. So interesting build path. And then it gives 40 ability power, 10% CDR, and then it gives the spell blade active. So I like CDR. That's always, I'm a big fan of that. So you can build this on Elise and Eve and things like that and be pretty good. And 40 AP is like decent for those champions. You could also build it on Ekko as well. And then it gives you this weird Sheen proc. So after using an ability, the next basic attack is converted into magic damage and deals 75% of base attack damage plus 0.3. So that means that like if you have 100 auto attack damage, it'll do 75 damage as magic, and then it'll add on the 0.3 AP ratio. So you can do the math on that. You need a little bit of AP to actually make your auto attacks do more damage. So in the early game, this won't be too much outside of just being like an AoE clear item, because it makes the bonus damage on hit and area effect around the target and restores 8% of your missing mana. So this is like much better for mana sustain, and it also allows you to like speed clear things. I think Elise will just like absolutely butcher the jungle. Like she'll clear so fast, it'll be disgusting. So maybe you'll be able to build some real items on her too. Same thing with Evelynn. Evelynn will also like clear super fast, so maybe you can build like an AP tank Evelynn or something like that. I think this is like a pretty good change overall, and like this item makes a lot more sense to a lot of the AP casters, because before you had this great item that gave 20% CDR and then gave like 80 AP, which are great stats, but it gives you like jack shit for mana regen. And I don't really know what Fiddlesticks is going to build anymore as far as jungle items. He's kind of got shafted. Maybe he'll be stuck playing support, but they'll probably look at him later. So overall, I think Runeglaive is going to be a great item, and it'll be good on a couple of champions. They made it to where Cinder Hulk won't randomly damage champions. So basically, you just be like walking around the jungle, and sometimes you'll randomly like pull jungle minions. I guess they fixed that. So they changed the defense tree a little bit. They swapped the position of Runic Blessing now to tier 5, and Oppression is there. So now it gives 2% damage reduction, which is kind of weird because I think a lot of people took this this spell or this ability for granted. So that's only 2% instead of 3%, which is like whatever, like 1% difference. So Oppression is pretty much the same ability as it was before, and then they just removed Runic Blessing, which is like the most useless mastery that's ever been put in the game. Tenacious. Now swapped to Oppression. It's now a tier 3, but it only gives 10% tenacity. 10% tenacity is like jack shit. So yeah, like if you have a 2-second stun, which is like one of the longest in the game, like only taking 10% off of that is like, that's nothing. Even taking 15% off of that is like not that great, but it's like better than nothing. But 10% I feel like is too low. I still think I would get Merc Treads in its place, so Tenacious is like whatever. Legendary Guardian swap position with Tenacious is now the final tier, and it's 1-point wonder. Grants 3 armor and 3 magic resist per enemy nearby. I think this is really good because I thought Legendary Guardian was a great thing to have, and it really should just be like the 21 offense point because it was one of the best masteries in the defense tree, and it goes really great with champions like Hecarim and Maokai and champions that get surrounded. So I think Legendary Guardian going deep down in the defense tree is good. Enchanted Armor now requires 2 mastery points and increases bonus armor and magic resistance by 2. Wait, it says 2 mastery points required 2, but then it has these 4 ranks. I think they messed up the the wording on this. I'm pretty sure because it used to be 2 and now it should be 4. So they messed up the wording on this. So it should be 4 mastery points. It gives 10%. So if you have 200 armor, or basically if you have 100 armor, 100 bonus, 100 bonus armor, 100 bonus magic resist, which is kind of realistic, you'll get an extra 10 armor and 10 magic resist out of putting 4 points into this. So it's like, I don't know how I feel about legendary or enchanted armor. It's like, nah. And a tier 5 talent too, it's like not that good. It's honestly not that good. Like, I'll have to look at what else I could get in the tree and like how I could build it out, but enchanted armor has like never been like a great ability to me, or a great thing. Like, it'd probably be really good on Malphite or something. Swiftness now requires 2 points. It gives 15% slow resist, and is also now a tier 1 talent. To put that into perspective, let's say you have 400 MS, and Nunu slows you with Ice Blast for 50, right? 50%, so that would take your MS down to 200, or by 200 points. So it'd be 15% less of that 200, or of that 50% slow. So you just like, it's like what, 30? You'd have 30 more MS or something like that, if I'm doing the math right. So you, instead of being 200 MS, you'd be 230 MS, which is still like jack shit. So I mean, I'm sure it'll help a little bit, but I don't know. I have to see what I can get instead. I don't know if I'd get this though. Like, it takes the place of enchanted armor, and I didn't get enchanted armor either, so I probably won't get swiftness in most cases unless they have a fuck ton of slows. Adaptive armor now occupies swiftness. Previous location. It's a 1-point mastery, and I think it's a good mastery overall, and I'll probably be getting this every time. You gain 4% of your bonus armor as magic resistance if you have more bonus armor than bonus magic resistance, or you gain 4% of your bonus magic resistance as armor if you have more bonus magic resistance than armor. So basically, you either get 4% bonus armor or 4% bonus magic resistance, which is like good for 1 point. Like, that's really good. I like that. So I'm down with this ability. Base turrets no longer set lasers to slow, so they no longer slow and no longer reduce the target's damage. Okay, so tower diving is going to be easier. God bless. I like tower diving. But anyways, that's the end of the patch notes. Hope you guys enjoyed, and also the new Zac skins look pretty sick. So I'll see you guys next time.